All right, welcome to another podcast of Reviving the American Family. I'm Zach,
I'm April.
and today we are going to be discussing. We've had a couple people that have asked, "What is that picture behind you, Zach? What does that mean? What does that say?" It shows a picture of Christ, of course, but this is the proclamation of the family, or the family proclamation
To the world.
to the entire world. Yes, and this was actually something that was proclaimed in 1995. So that's when it came out. And I will tell you, when it first came out, I thought, this is like super obvious. Why do we have to proclaim that, some of these stuff that's in it? For example, that it's good for a man to marry a wife and them to stay together, and that children to be loved and honored and respected, and fathers should provide, mothers should nurture, and just like simple stuff like that, and marriages between a man and a wife. And man, things have changed, and it's probably, I would
Quite
say,
rapidly too.
Yeah.
Like very quickly from 1995 to now.
I would say that it's probably the most prophetic proclamation that I've seen, coming from, I was 13 in 1995, and thinking these are just obvious stuff that I've seen, grew up with, to rapid changes that happen throughout the world. And we have kids ranging from 10 to 19, and they've seen these changes and understand a little bit more. Why would our church leadership decide to put this proclamation out? So I think I want to discuss this, maybe take it paragraph by paragraph and go over it into some of the details that we want to go over. There's a lot to this. You can kind of see it's about a page and really little print, and there's a lot of good details. So the first thing that I want to discuss is that it says, marriage is between a man and a woman, and that's by, God's commandment. So that obviously has changed. So in 1995, it came out. In 2004, we started to see legalization of gay marriage.
Yeah.
In 2004. I think it started with Massachusetts, if I remember reading that correctly, and then it just kind of spread.
Yeah. It usually happens like California or either West Coast or East Coast is where these things kind of gain legs.
Spread and come in. So that was one big change that we've seen as far as the United States. And then the other thing that we've seen a change in quite a bit is just people getting married, wanting to be married, and then also what ages they're getting married at. So I think they're like right now, they're getting married. Men on average are getting married at 30 and a half, and women at 28 and a half. It's about a 5 to 7 year difference.
Yeah.
Compared to 1995.
Yeah. We got married in 2004. I was 20 and you were 22.
Right.
But even then, that was quite young. I remember me telling my friends I was getting married. They were like, "You're so young. Well, are you pregnant?" Like, nope.
Yeah, no. So yeah, there's been a pretty big change. And some of those changes, especially when we look at ages, is for financial reasons. People are using that as reasons. And society is really laying it heavy on the feet of our young people because of the increased cost of living, whether it's gas prices, food prices, prices of trying to buy a home, what their mortgages are going to be compared to what their average salaries are. It's making it more and more difficult for people to start a family.
Yeah. I think most women want a home before they start a family.
They want a nest.
Yeah, they want a nest of their own. I think most women have that desire. I know I did, even though our home was super tiny, but it was perfect for us at the time, and I loved that little home. I every time we go back to, at our hometown where we bought that home, I go by and I drive by it just to see how it is. That's where we had our first two babies. So I think that's something that women really desire, even if it is a tiny one.
Yep. And it, like I said, that smaller home, I wouldn't say it was tiny. I would say it was a starter home.
It was a starter home.
And that starter home, I mean, it had a few bedrooms,
Three
And
bedrooms.
yeah, and then it was 1,300 square feet, and it was enough space to start a family. And we bought it for 103,000. And now we looked at it, and it's between 250, 300,000 as far as what it costs. That is a pretty high price starter home.
Yeah.
The salaries have not increased that much to be able to say, it's keeping up with inflation. So
Yeah.
I would say that makes it tough for people, and it's a little bit justified, but I don't think it changes the commandments of God. So I think that God has raised the bar and says, here's the bar, and don't let reasons and excuses keep you from having children. The average amount of children people are having these days, what is it? It's like under 2?
It's 1 to 2 per married couple.
1 to 2.
Per married couple.
And we've got 4.
Yeah.
We've got high five. So we're meeting we're way over that number. So
we should have had more. I really wish we could have had more.
Yeah, I know. But the point to this is, the families are very important, and children should not be looked at as burdens, but as blessings. And I hope, as we discuss this and go into the family proclamation, you will see the importance of that family relationship. One of the other things that this talks about is all humans are created in the image of God. So we don't believe that God is this chair, or he's this microphone, or he's, this room. I know every religion's a little bit different. We believe he's in a personage of a human, but he's glorified and he's perfect. And he made us in his image. So we look like him. If we saw him, he wouldn't be alien to us. We would know him as a person. And that's important, that we know, the importance of where we come from, not just in this life, but we had a pre-mortal life, we have our mortal life, and we're going to have a post-mortal life. And we will live forever for all eternity. And today is the time that we are to try to make our Heavenly Father happy, glorify him, and become, like him. And in the scriptures, there's a commandment that says, be perfect like unto my Father in heaven is perfect. And I might not be quoting that exactly, but it's maybe paraphrase, but it's pretty close. So we're not perfect. We know that, but we're trying. And that takes a while.
We have eternity to become perfect.
Yes.
Right now, we're just on that road.
Yeah. Yeah. And family, another thing that we believe, so we believe that family relationships, and I hope this catches fire. I don't know how to say this right, but I hope this really spreads, that we believe that family relationships continue beyond our mortal life. And I think that might be somewhat of a difference between our maybe religion and other Christian religions, that I believe that I'm going to be married to my wife, April, for time and all eternity, and we will never be divided. So that's important for me, and it keeps me trying to be a good husband, because I don't want to screw this up, because, I want to make April proud and become, the man that she wants me to be, and I think she probably wants the same.
Yeah. I want to be the wife and mother that I can, the best wife and mother I could possibly be.
Yeah.
And that is something I feel like I will be striving towards for eternity.
What do you think about that 1955 guide to being a good wife?
I think in an ideal world, it's great, but most women have to work these days, and they don't have the luxury of being a stay-at-home mom. So if a woman doesn't have a full-time job, if you want to know what we're talking about, you should Google 1955, a guide to being a good wife. It is pretty funny. It's pretty good.
If you have a sense of humor, and what I was saying was joking. So it's a funny way of looking at things. Although I don't think some of the stuff are bad, I think it's a little one-sided. Obviously,
a little one-sided. A little one-sided.
There should be a guide to being a good husband too. But a lot of those things, serving your spouse is a good thing. And that's me serving my wife and my wife serving me. And it really, I think, really shows appreciation for each other. And there's not necessarily one holding the sword above the other. We go hand in hand. Now, I do believe that the husband presides over the home. So the presiding over the home, I guess, what does that mean for you, April? Like what?
When I get my car stuck, you come and get me.
that
Um,
happened. Just for reference, that happened. We have a long driveway, and there's a hill, and
it gets
it
icy.
gets icy, and
I wasn't going fast
my
enough.
wife drove up it, and it's not only just it's not a straight hill, it's a hill that goes like this. So if you don't go fast enough, you slide down and you hit the curb and you get in the rocks, and then I got a fence from us going down into the pond. So I have some safety nets there, and thank heaven she didn't hit the railing part, but she got stopped in the rocks. And
Yeah.
I've got a tractor. I was able to pull her out with some effort, but all is good.
It's not the only time I got stuck. One time I got stuck because I saw a rock and I got stuck in the mud because I saw some rocks I wanted to go get for landscaping, and I went down into like a big muddy.
I remember that was a while ago, but yes, I
So
remember.
I'm good at getting stuck.
Yeah.
So that's what I think presiding over the home is, being able to unstick your family sometimes.
Yeah.
I like shiny rocks.
Well, I think that's a little bit in jest and joking, but there is a part of that where I think there's some I think us as men should take honor that our wives want us to protect them and help them in the time of need. It could be something that, we joke around and be silly, but there could be some serious things that happen when you slide down that hill. And I think, but getting off of that scenario, but I think it's important for us to work as equals, but there might be times where me as the husband, I need to step up and make maybe a decision or help out maybe a little bit more. And God has, wanted me to do that as the presiding person over the family.
Yeah.
You can't have two CEOs, but, each of us, I mean, can you really name an instance where we've disagreed on something and I did something that you didn't want? Probably hardly ever.
Not in our later years of our marriage. We probably disagreed a little more when, like, in the early parts of our marriage, like the first maybe 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But now that we're kind of in the mature part of our marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that.
I think we disagree a whole bunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe about single fatherhood and single motherhood, but that's about it.
Yeah. We'll get in that. We can have that debate here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So first, let's go over to the next subject. The first commandment, and we kind of hit on this a little bit, is to the first commandment given to Adam and Eve was to multiply. So again, high five, boom.
We did it.
We did it. We've got 4 kids. The power is between a married couple only. So we believe that power, besides, without going into detail, you can kiss someone that is, that you're dating. But other than that power is held in reserve to a married couple, legally and lawfully married. And only a married couple.
And I think I explain this to our girls. It's not just a moral commandment, but there's certain things that provide structure, and structure is always good with kids. If you have a structured society, it's like you've set this particular act for marriage only because that's how you create children. And when you're in a marriage, you have a better sense of stability for those kids. So structure is good. Yeah.
Well, and let's talk about the power of creation. So obviously the great creator is God and Jesus Christ. Those are the ones that, created this world, this universe. Everything has been created by them. And organized. Those, the matter has been organized, and he has put together this creation. He has given this sacred commandment to multiply, but he's put boundaries around it because he knows what works the best. And that is when you create between a man and a woman in the bonds of sacred matrimony. And that is only for them. So that's really important. And we see the breakdown of society when kids are being had outside of that wedlock, those commandments. Let's talk about that a little bit. You kind of hinted towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say as far as some of the statistics? Can you give us some data on that and how that's affected society?
So hold on, let me see where we're at here. So most kids are born outside of wedlock these days, or outside of marriage. About 70% of Black American kids are born outside of a married couple. 70% of Native Americans, 27% of white Americans, and Hispanic Americans, it's 45%.
Okay, so 70% for Black Americans, 70% for Native Americans, 45% for Hispanics, and 27% for whites.
Right.
Whoa, that's a lot of
That's
children.
a lot of kids.
I don't know how many children are born each year, but that's a lot of children.
Yeah.
So I wonder. So, is there a point in time where you can say, "Man, there was a big increase where people started to get born out of wedlock"?
I didn't look at that.
Okay. Well, we've talked
but-
about this before, though. In 1965, what was it called? There was President Johnson put together.
He put together incentives for, to take the Black father out of the home. Really, he gave mothers subsidies for being single.
Yeah.
And
So I think, we look at that, is it like, the question is, are subsidies good, subsidies bad, or entitlements good or bad? And I would say, if done right, they're wonderful. Our church has, we give out free food and we can help. We're here, I always tell people we're here to sustain life, and not maintain life. If you look back throughout the years and you can say, yeah, the government has given me X, Y, and Z for the last 20 years, I would say you're not using the system how it should be used. You're probably abusing that system, because the children's father should not be the government. The government does a horrible job in raising kids.
they're absent.
They're not there. Yeah, they're not there. So you might say the government provided food stamps. They provided Medicare, Medicaid. They provided, all these. They provided Section 8 housing.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't provide love. They didn't provide morals and ethics. They didn't provide discipline. And you can never replace the father, and you can never replace a mother. Period.
Well, I think I have firsthand experience with that. My father, my real father wasn't around. My mom married my stepdad when I was 12. Things got significantly better. But until I was 12 years old, we were on government assistance. And it was tremendously helpful. So I think these programs are wonderful to have, but I think we do have to have some sort of regulations and stipulations on them. So we're not encouraging mothers to be single.
Right. Agreed. So I think, I don't know what's going to end up happening with the Trump administration and how they look at this. I know there was some pauses on some of those entitlements, and then they said they were going to look at them. I hope they do. I think we need to incentivize, and there might be a pain point here until people get used to it. But I think in the long run, I don't want the kids to suffer, but in the long run, there's got to be a change.
We need to incentivize nuclear families, the father to be in the home in all races across America.
Yeah.
We all need that one culture, that one anchor for society, and that is the American family.
Yeah. I think we need to go back to teaching our kids about sexual relationships are only between a married couple, and not just say, hey, I'm going to allow them to get birth control and I'm going to allow them to do X, Y, and Z because they are going to go out and do it anyway. No, that's a lazy way of being a parent, and that's not teaching your kids correctly.
It's not teaching the importance of chastity and intimacy being exclusively for marriage. You see it today in the hookup culture, and a lot of Gen Zers are kind of disenfranchised with it. They're disenfranchised not only with the hookup culture, but the divorce culture too. They talk a lot. I mean, I've heard a lot of Gen Zs talk about it.
Yeah. So I think that's important for us to, as we look at parenting our kids. If you're a young parent out there, I think you need to set up a good moral base and a plan to teach your kids about that. And it just gives if you're waiting for marriage, it gives you so much more of a bond and knowing that you're my only one and I'm your only one. And I think that really builds upon that marriage and just the sanctity of those relationships.
Yeah.
So, um, speaking of sanctity, another thing that this provides us, the proclamation of the family, or the family proclamation, is we affirm the sanctity of life. That once you've made a child, that child is yours.
Whether it's in or outside of marriage.
Yeah. That child should live. When I say yours, there's always adoption. And I think that's a very amazing act for those that aren't ready for it. And for those that aren't ready for it but keep it, I also think that's a good sacrifice. There's many statistics out there now that will say some cities, I think New York, have more abortions than live births, which is not where our society should be moving towards. Yeah. Babies are sacred. They're the most innocent, and they should be treated like that with protection and love. Anything else you want to say on that, April?
No, I think you said that perfectly. That, once a person has been conceived, it should be able to develop and become to its highest potential.
Yeah.
That should not be taken from it.
Yeah.
From that person, not it, that person. It is a person.
Yeah. Yep. And parents and something else that this family proclamation talks about is parents have the responsibility to love and care for their children. There's a lot of people that, I guess when you talk about the people that believe in abortion, that they'll say, man, these kids are growing up in horrible circumstances. And some of that's not, that's true. So,
Yeah.
Some of that's true that, man, there are some pretty rough circumstances. We see it every day in the news. We see abuse and some horrible things happening. But again, that doesn't give us the right or the excuse to do those types of things. We have to step up as a society and protect and love our children. Again, the children is our future. They're the most important pieces of us, and they need to have that protection. And not having that protection is offensive to our God. He protects us, and He has given us the privilege to create, and He wants us to protect our children. And that means many things. It means providing for them. It means fathers, and especially mothers, are nurturing their children. It means giving them the proper education for their lives. It means being there for them. It means going to their sports activities and their band. April said that. I was saying it at the same time. I was trying to get ahead of it because April knows.
You'd rather watch sports, but our girls are band nerds. They're band nerds.
I'm not the band guy, but it can be really hard for me to sit there through band.
And it's hard for me to sit through sports.
Yeah. But
I can sit through the band stuff. I don't like the sports, but we do it together.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're proud of them. We're proud of what they're able to accomplish.
Whether they like band or soccer.
Yeah. Soccer, hopefully, but
it's mostly band.
But that is a sacred responsibility, and children are entitled to that love. And there's nothing that will compensate for not being there. If you're not there for your children because you want to be the CEO or, you want to keep on growing with your company, or you're putting that over your children's welfare, I guess is what I should say, then that's a problem. Whether you're a man or a woman, your children have to be first, period. And it doesn't, sometimes you might miss a sporting event, but if you're there and you're saying, hey, I've missed every single sporting event this year. That's a problem. Or if you're even worse than that, if you're just not in your children's lives, maybe, there's a divorce happened or there was a child out of wedlock, you need to go and make amends and be there for your children. I don't care what age you are. A daughter and a son need a father. And without that, there are some mental issues that come about.
They also need a mother too, because there's a lot of women these days that, they prioritize career and moving up as well. So it's something, and it might be more necessary in these days too for women to work outside of the home or just have full-time jobs. So you need to prioritize that.
There's best case scenarios where I think like, hey, dad is the provider, mom is the nurturer, and she's not, she doesn't have a job. She's just focused on the kids. And it can be different depending on the stage of your life. If your kids are young versus your kids are 18, 19, well, then, you could probably get a job and be fine there. Mm-hmm. But that's best case scenario. Better would be, maybe mom's has to work part-time, or she's working, but she's working from home, and dad's obviously working. And then it goes, down from there. So it is a spectrum, and there is a perfect scenario, which to me would be just dad works, mom takes care of the kids.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's been times in our marriage where April hasn't worked. First 10 years she hadn't worked, and then she worked, and then she didn't work, and now she's working right now. And so we don't, we're not at that best case scenario currently.
Yeah.
And that's for reasons, but
something we strive for though.
It's something we strive for. And I think that's what you want. So if you're saying, man, I'm listening to this, but it ain't making me feel too good because I'm a single mom, well, that's fine for right now. You that's the cards you've been dealt, but you need to try to rectify that situation. You need to try to have a 2-parent household.
I can tell you from experience, my dad was absent. When my stepdad came in the picture, my mom still worked full time, but it significantly helped me.
Yeah.
Mentally, I felt more stable. I felt more loved. Mm-hmm. The absence of my biological father, that sting was still there, but it helped tremendously having a stepdad that loved me like a real dad.
Yeah. What about statistics, April? I know we talked a little bit about statistics of single moms, single dads, how well their kids do. Are you able to find that real quick?
Okay, that's mental health.
I think the statistics, if I'm remembering right,
I don't remember them.
The statistics of the single mom,
it was like 80-20.
Yeah, it was
like 80% of single parents are moms and 20% are dads.
Well, I guess my question was, what was like? I think we looked up the percent of children that were, incarcerated or in jail or something like that.
70% of the people that are incarcerated come from single mother homes.
Yeah. And what was it for fathers? Was it like 30% or?
I don't remember.
Yeah. So, but there was
30%.
There was a pretty big difference, which does show a couple things. Number one is that the dads need to be in the home, or they need to at least be very present if that's not in the scenario. Children have to have the discipline of a father. It's very hard to be a single parent and provide what is needed, and have your children's happy, successful, etc. It's not impossible. I know there's probably people watching that says, I did it, or I know so-and-so and that did it. Yes, but we're talking about percentages. What's the best case scenario? If you could wipe those out, it would be much better for society when there's more whether it's moms or dads in the house together with their family.
Yeah. I think the kids pick up on it too. They can feel the stress, and the anxiety of the parents when they're on their own. I
Yeah.
know I could feel it with my mom when she was on her own.
What about, we talked a little bit about mental health. You had mentioned
Yeah.
that as you were looking through your papers. So what does mental health look like for a single mother trying to do it all on her own?
So 80% of single mothers report anxiety, depression, or some sort of mental illness. Only 25% of married women do.
Only 25%
Of
of married
married
women
women
report mental health issues. For single single moms, it's 80%.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Huge difference.
And it's like, to me, that's like, duh. She's got the whole world like on her back. So of course she's going to feel much more pressure, much more anxiety, and probably a little bit more, I would say, unhappiness if you're depressed, because she's trying to do all this on her own. And raising kids, even as a married couple, is not easy.
Yeah, you feel the stress and the anxiety from that. You know,
when your kids hurt, you hurt. You know, and when your kids make a mistake, you kind of feel like, man, did I fail them? And then you got the added stress of, I've got to do everything by myself. I've got to work. I've got to provide. I've got to buy the groceries. I've got to pay all the bills. I've got car payments. My car just broke down. My car slid down, and I don't have a husband to come pull me out.
I'm pulling myself out.
Yeah. And how do you do that? Well, you know, it's.
I would have left the car there.
Yeah, I probably.
Like, it'll melt out eventually.
So yeah, it's some of this data is very interesting to look over, but most of it's pretty obvious. Of course, 2 parents is better than 1. Of course, if you're trying to do it on your own, you're going to feel that stress more, and it's going to cause mental problems for you. And then one of the last things it talks about is successful marriages are based on faith, prayer, repentance, respect, love, compassion. You know, all that stuff is part of a successful marriage. So, you know, in a couple of my podcasts already, I've said, get your butts to church. And it's not about going to church. That's important, because what is being taught there. If you're in church and you're sleeping in the pews and you're not participating and you're not serving other people, you know, there's not much that's going on. You know, that's not helping you. But getting yourself to church and actively participating and trying to be better just causes for a happier marriage. I mean, one of the biggest principles that you learn about in church about the gospel is repentance. And repentance is change. And what are you changing? You're changing to try to become better, more Christ-like. So, of course, you know, using these gospel principles in your lives, in our lives, are going to make for a more successful marriage. You had a smirk on your face. Were you thinking of something? Is there a story?
There was a story that just with, like, most of our girls, their friends are, they come from divorced families, and it kind of puts a damper on their fun too. I mean, they like to do Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't know if any of you understand what Dungeons and Dragons is like, but it's very sophisticated. It's not like just some game.
I don't know nothing about it.
I don't know much about it, but I know that it's very structured and it's very sophisticated. And if they're missing one person, it just blows the whole thing up. And I remember our daughter, they'd been planning this campaign for like 2 months. And she comes in like storming in after school, and she throws her bag down. She's like, well, there goes our campaign. Katie has to go see her dad this weekend. What does that even mean? I said, well, her parents are divorced, right? And she says to me, she goes, yeah, so? She goes, I see my dad every day. I don't understand why she needs to go see her dad. So she gets all like huffy about it. And I'm like, well, her parents are divorced, so they probably have joint custody. She probably goes sees her dad every other weekend. And she's like, well, I don't know about their divorce, but it sure is ruining my life. So, uh, it kind of, it puts a damper on their games and stuff. It's just better if
Yeah.
it makes it's so much less complicated that when you can make a marriage work,
Yeah.
with your best. Of course, there's always going to be certain things. If you're being physically abused, if there's infidelity, or if there's a substance abuse, those are things that are really hard to work out. So if those are things in your marriage and they're not getting worked on, then of course, you have to take drastic measures, and divorce might be on the table. But I think in most cases, I see people getting divorced and I'm like, wow, you could have worked that out.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot. Our marriage has not always been perfect. It's
Right.
been really hard sometimes. And there's been times when I'm sure we both wanted to throw in the towel,
Right.
but we didn't, because we look at these girls and it's so much more important that we work it out and work on our love and our compassion for each other and get
Agreed.
each other out of sticky spots.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So that's, successful marriage comes with these things. And I think, a lot of people try to, I don't want to say, I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but kind of make their own path. It's like, man, this path, we've got a trail that's really good. We've got a path. And then some people are like, I like to be out in the woods, right? So if I can find like a deer trail or a trail that humans made, that's a lot better to walk through than the woods that have thorns and ticks and all these other things going on. It's like this path has been done for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We know it works. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. The wheel's already a wheel. It's perfect. So God has told us how to do this. We just need to do it and trying to reinvent something because of our own desires.
You just might need to put new rims on it or something. And, we might need to repair it in some way, but we don't need to reinvent it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last part of this is just a warning of, hey, if you don't do this, it's going to be the downfall to societies. So I think, we've got to take that warning. Again, this is 1995, and I see some of these things that are happening now, whether it's the confusion about gender or, the importance of marriage, the importance of going to church and learning together as a family, and these things that I think were engraved in me as a kid. I'm looking at it and saying, wow, this is like my daughter's friends just don't, some of them do, of course, but a lot of them don't have this, and it can be really tough on them. And so the warning is there. God wants to bless us. He doesn't want bad things to happen because we weren't willing to listen to him. It's just like, us as parents. We want our kids to be blessed, but we know when they make mistakes, those are mistakes and there's consequences. And as society, we just want to avoid those consequences as much as possible. So, all right, this is the podcast on the Family Proclamation. I hope you guys have learned a lot. And again, if you could please like, subscribe, share, comment on the podcast. Yeah. If you have a disagreement with us and you want to talk about it, we respond to most of the comments. So go ahead and put those in, and we'd be happy to respond and discuss it over the text. So appreciate you guys. Have a great Sunday.